Welcome, everyone. If you're tuning in today, you're probably looking for answers that actually make sense, right? Things that are clear, structured, and that you can apply immediately to your life. Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we are going to explore a completely fascinating intersection, literally the exact place where modern clinical psychology meets ancient faith traditions. And we're doing this to uncover a real, structural cure for the burnout and exhaustion that so many of us are just dragging around in our modern world. So, let me ask you, are you feeling spiritually exhausted? It's a very real and honestly, a very heavy phenomenon that the source materials dig into today. Look, we aren't just talking about needing a quick nap here, we are talking about a deep, systemic weariness. It's the kind of fatigue that literally seeps into your daily routines and completely drains your sense of purpose.
There's this incredibly powerful quote from a devotional source titled God and Man that really hits the nail on the head. It says, sometimes, the greatest act of strength and courage is falling to our knees, letting go, and taking a break from all that we have been carrying. The silent battles that leave us feeling spiritually drained with heavy hearts. Wow. If that resonates with you, I just want to validate that weariness right now. Slowing down terrifies a lot of us, right? We're so used to constantly running around. But, as we'll see, finding true rest might actually require flipping our entire approach to time completely upside down.
To get us there, we've got a clear, logical roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the weight of exhaustion. Then, purpose in the mundane. Third, taking it one day at a time. Fourth, the Christian mindfulness connection. And finally, we'll wrap up with actionable steps in embracing the present moment. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The weight of exhaustion. We're going to see how the daily grind, the repetitive stuff we just have to do over and over again, can slowly erode our peace and leave us feeling totally overlooked.
Author Lisa TerKeurst brilliantly captures this feeling. Just think about the everyday stuff. The smelly laundry, the dirty dishes, snotty noses, overdue library books, misplaced keys. It's that constant, never-ending caregiving. You wash clothes, they get dirty again. You buy food, it gets eaten immediately, right? It is so incredibly easy for this mundane repetition to just sneak up on us. It makes us feel unappreciated, and we start wondering, is there actually any greater purpose to the sheer drudgery of my everyday life?
That brings us to Section 2, Purpose in the Mundane. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how ancient biblical texts radically reframe this exact mundane reality we just talked about.
Let's look at the historical figure of David from the text of 1 Samuel. To the world looking in, he was just young, maybe a bit of a pest to his older brothers, a mere shepherd boy doing literally the lowest, most mundane tasks you could imagine. But from a divine perspective, he was a hand-picked future king from the bloodline of Jesus. And the really profound takeaway from the source material here is that even after David was anointed king, he didn't go off to some fancy military academy. Nope, he went right back out to the fields to tend sheep. That everyday drudgery was actually a profound, crucial training ground for his character.
Moving on to Section 3, One Day at a Time. If today's mundane tasks are a training ground, how in the world do we handle the crushing anxiety of an unknown tomorrow? Well, the sources point to a very specific historical and biblical antidote.
In a sermon analyzing Matthew 6:34, Pastor Scott Childs lays out 4 highly logical reasons for living exclusively in the present. First off, the text explicitly commands us not to be anxious about the future. God literally forbids it. Second, tomorrow is going to have its own unique burdens anyway. Third, think about it. Each individual day has enough trouble of its own. Why on earth would we add tomorrow's trouble to today's? And fourth, there's a theological promise that provisions and grace are given strictly for just one day at a time. It is a brilliant structural framework for present moment living.
So, let's transition to Section 4, the Christian mindfulness connection. We've talked theology, but now we're going to bridge this ancient framework directly into modern clinical psychology.
Because, guys, living in the present isn't just a nice, warm, and fuzzy theological idea. It is a scientifically proven mental health tool. This connection is backed by solid, peer-reviewed research. Specifically, an absolutely fascinating study published in the Religions Journal by MDPI, authored by researchers Timbers and Hollenberger from Boise State and Baylor Universities. They established this exact, undeniable link. And this brilliantly illustrates a really important timeline. A lot of folks think mindfulness is exclusively an Eastern practice, right? But present moment focus has actually been a core embodied practice in Christian history for literally millennia. Go back to 1000 BC, and you've got the Psalms talking about meditating day and night. Fast forward to 400 AD, the desert mothers and fathers were isolating themselves to just sit with their emotions. And today, in modern monasticism, that contemplative reflection is still going strong.
Let's look at the clinical side for a second. Have you heard of third-wave behavioral theory? It's a modern psychological approach that is a real game changer. Unlike older therapies that basically just tried to stop you from feeling bad things, this focuses on holistic well-being. It's all about regulating emotions after they arrive through mindfulness, acceptance, and self-compassion.
Now, one of the most famous applications of this is dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. This specific therapy teaches patients tangible skills to reduce psychological distress, things like non-judgmental observation, radical acceptance, and paying close attention to the present moment. The clinical data shows massive positive outcomes when people just learn to stay in the now. Okay, let's see how this builds a massive bridge between the clinic and the church.
The structural overlap here is honestly profound. Researchers map the clinical terms of DBT directly to their theological counterparts. Check this out. Where a psychologist teaches emotional regulation, the ancient tradition practices prayer and contemplation. Where the clinic uses radical acceptance, the faith uses surrendering to Jesus' yoke. And where DBT emphasizes present moment awareness, the theology focuses on asking only for daily bread. The overlap between evidence-based mental health therapies and these sacred traditions is just incredible to see.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Embracing the Present Moment. We are going to apply everything we've unpacked today to your daily life, specifically looking at a powerful concept drawn from the writings of Denise Renner.
It's called the manna principle. Grace and strength are given daily. Think back to the historical account in Exodus. The Israelites are wandering in the wilderness, and they're given manna, literally food falling from the sky, every single morning. But here's the catch. They were explicitly told they could only gather enough for that specific day. No hoarding allowed.
Think about the logic behind that. God's mercies are not given weekly, and they certainly aren't given monthly. You cannot hoard peace. You just can't stockpile strength for some future what if. Denise Renner actually shares a story about how she used to lose sleep, completely stressed over an event that was months in the future. But we are simply not meant to carry the weight of tomorrow. When we drag tomorrow's anxieties into today, we're basically trying to use today's limited strength to fight battles that haven't even happened yet. So, the crucial point is summarized beautifully in the ancient text of Lamentations 3:22-23. The mercies are brand new every single morning. Renner describes it as a brand new package lying at the foot of your bed when you wake up. You open it, and it contains exactly the wisdom, strength, and power you need for the next 12 to 16 hours. Nothing more and absolutely nothing less.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. What would happen if you took hold of the peace offered for today, instead of living in tomorrow? Whether you approach this from the perspective of modern dialectical behavior therapy or from ancient spiritual contemplation, the answer is exactly the same. The real cure for your burnout isn't found in trying to control the future. It's found right here in the present moment. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.